Hey, Foot Clan, we want to invite you to come to Dallas on July 13th, this upcoming Friday, for Ballers Live at Canton Hall. We're kicking off the National Fantasy Football Convention. Go to ballerslive.com to grab a ticket to our show. And if you want to go to the convention as well, there's a bundle package on there. We want to see you in Dallas at ballerslive.com.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast, coming to you from Draft.com Studios with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Welcome.
You're so polite.
It's Saturday. We've got an extra episode, and this is it.
Finally, I can love the weekends.
Oh.
I've always hated weekends, but now Saturday Footballers says it's a good weekend.
Saturday, July 7th, 2018. Jason Moore is here.
Yes, I am. You are very astute.
Yep. Jay Grizz is here. The final episode without Mike, who is returning next week. So all of you out there with, what would that be? Beard withdrawals?
Yeah.
Something like that?
I mean, I'm working on my beard.
Yours is pretty thick right now.
Yeah, I need to
Is
trim.
this just to placate Jay Grizz so maybe he doesn't attack?
Yeah, I mean, originally it's pretty much just to hide my fat face.
But now double.
But now there's multiple uses of the beard.
We have a great episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast for you today. Best Ball Bonanza on the show. We're going to give you some best ball tips, advice, recommendations. That'll be at the end of the show. We're going to hit the mailbag today, answer Foot Clan questions. You guys sent them in. And then we also have a great quick question today talking about players that we are ashamed to love. And we'll talk about a few of those. Very excited. You can follow us on Twitter at the FF Ballers. Be sure to do that. And a ton of you are heading over to YouTube to subscribe to the visual form of this podcast.
That's because there's a ton of smart people out there.
It's so easy, too. You just go to youtube.com/thefantasyfootballers, click subscribe, click the bell so that you get alerted with a new episode. Then you just watch them all.
And
that's it.
You enjoy life and have a good
You put them on your TV.
Win hashtag FootClan titles. That's the goal around here.
And you would have gotten a notification yesterday when Jason did a live best ball draft.
That is true. If you have those notifications on whenever we do a live special, which, you know,
we do those from time to time.
We've actually improved our equipment here to where through the season we're going to be hopping on randomly. When we've got extra time, we'll just hop on, go live, answer some questions. So make sure you're there so that you can get your questions asked and answered.
Yeah, and a couple other things before the quick question. I want to remind people about footclanvote.com. You can go there and you can nominate us for the 2018 Podcast Awards. There are two categories that we ask that you take a look at, and that would be the People's Choice and the Sports and Recreation category.
Yep.
And you just go, if you enjoy this show and you want to support us.
You only need to do it once. Make sure to check the box that says that you want to be a voter.
And so that's footclanvote.com. And then from time to time, we like to read a review on the show. We always appreciate it when you can go to Apple Podcasts, leave this show a review. It helps the podcast out. And so we're going to read one right now.
Review-a-saurus Rex.
This one comes in from the Greg says, "This is a good podcast."
That's
I like the title.
Yeah.
5 stars. They are quite entertaining. Jason has a tenuous grasp on the English language, but seems to be an idiot savant. This is true. Andy is 100% more dad than the others.
Accurate.
And Mike has a beard. Somehow that helps. The Greg says speaks truth. I like it. Thank you, the Greg says.
Yeah, that's, you know, what higher praise is there than this is a good podcast?
Yeah. Congrats, everybody. You found a good podcast.
Yes, you did. All right, quick question of the day. I alluded to it earlier. Right now, right here on this fine Saturday, who are you ashamed to love for the 2018 fantasy football season? Jason.
So I'm going to go with a 2-pack from the same team. One feeds into the other. But it's really something that is against how I normally draft, and I see all the reasons why not to buy into these two specific players. But I just love Juju Smith-Schuster too much. Juju Smith-Schuster is one of those guys. I mean, look, where he's being drafted is a scary proposition. You've got him going right around, tried and true Demaryius Thomas, a Golden Tate. Sometimes depending on your format, he's near a Larry Fitzgerald. And so you go, well, you can't take Juju, a second-year player who's not the number one on his own team, with those other guys. And I get that argument. I really do. I'm ashamed.
But you're willing to disregard it.
I'm willing to disregard it because I really believe when I watched him play last season and I look at the metrics of how he performed and the departure of Martavis Bryant, with a rookie filling that role, I really believe.
The Kool-Aid Cup has a picture of Juju Smith-Schuster on the side?
Yes, and on the other side, if you rotate it around, in part because of Juju Smith-Schuster, is Ben Roethlisberger. Here's a guy who in the last decade has only finished as a top 5 quarterback, I think, 2 times.
Sure.
His normal finish is like quarterback
2 times.
2 times. His normal finish is like quarterback 15 usually, and I have him ranked as my quarterback 5. Now, part of that is because I have him statted out for 16 games, and he doesn't usually play 16. So obviously and that's what that is part of why he usually finishes about quarterback 15. If he played 16 games, he would not be.
Oh, he'd be up at 14 or,
yes,
or 13.
2 extra weeks would get him 1 spot
Maybe
higher.
It would.
No,
it just depends on the year. Big Ben is very hard to predict.
Yes, but so those are 2 guys that I'm a little ashamed to love, but the truth is,
I think a lot of people love Juju Smith-Schuster, but yours is related to draft position and who you take him over.
Right.
That's where you feel a little bit of guilt, maybe a little guilt or sadness.
I'm all in. I've drafted and I've put my money where my mouth is in best ball. I've got a lot of stock in both Ben Roethlisberger and Juju, and it kind of goes against some of how I usually draft.
Now, I had hoped after that big lead up that you were going to say you secretly loved LaShawn McCoy.
Oh, no.
I thought that was coming.
Hate LaShawn McCoy.
Yeah, you said that on the best ball draft yesterday, too, when you drafted him.
Yes, I did. Well,
that's a good point for fantasy owners, though, to listen to, right? You don't like LaShawn McCoy, but there is a point and a price.
He dropped to the 4th pick in the 3rd round, and at that point,
you started to like it.
The risk is versus the reward of the volume. Yeah. But where he's usually in the 2nd round, I don't like.
So my answer to this question, who I'm ashamed to love right now for the 2018 fantasy football season, I'm not going to answer LaShawn McCoy because I'm not ashamed to love LaShawn McCoy. He's been great and will be great.
Should be.
There are lots of problems in Buffalo, a lot of problems. He also had a lack of efficiency last year, LaShawn McCoy. But
great argument.
The pure opportunity between receptions, carries, I still like LaShawn McCoy. So I'm going with a player that when I look at our rankings on thefantasyfootballers.com, our wide receiver rankings, I believe you guys both have him. One of you have him deep in the 30s. I believe you have Corey Davis at 38. Mike has him at like 23, something like that. Or, sorry, late 20s. I have him at 19. And so Corey Davis is the player that I'm ashamed to love because I look at Corey Davis and I see that limited sample size and you see his results last year and you basically say, well, there's really nowhere – you can't get worse than what Corey Davis did last year. But I think the opportunity – I think the arguments you make about the Titans and Marcus Mariota, I simply translate through to a player I think has elite size and skill in Corey Davis. And I think we saw it in the playoffs last year towards the end of the season. Matt Harmon in reception perception, he said that Davis showed extremely well on the slant and the 9 routes, pristine success rates on those patterns. His average depth of target last year was 11.8 yards, which is the same as Amari Cooper and Tyreek Hill, which to me, what that translates to, when your average depth of target is at that elite downfield option level, your receptions don't have to go up as far to achieve high yardage marks, right? The T.Y. Hilton 60-something receptions. I think 80 receptions is within the realm of possibility for Corey Davis this year. 80, I think its ceiling in yardage is 1,100 yards, 1,200 yards, somewhere in that range. So do I think he will do that? No, but I think the opportunity is there for him to be at 19. And right now, here's the deal. I may be ashamed to love him, but you're choosing between Corey Davis or Will Fuller.
I almost went with Will Fuller as the player I'm ashamed to love.
Okay. Well, and that's another one like Juju where he's not the first option on the team, right? Nobody argues that DeAndre Hopkins is the number one.
Correct.
And in those situations, look, I've said it might be my fantasy weakness in the past when we've asked that question on the show. I don't like drafting wide receiver 2s sometimes because I'm so hesitant because I want the big opportunity. Corey Davis is the arguable one on that roster. Should be the one, right?
Absolutely.
Opportunity to be the one. Nobody thinks Rashard Matthews is it. Now you could argue Delaney Walker might lead in targets.
Yeah, but there's no DeAndre Hopkins ahead of him, right?
No,
yes.
and so I would rather have Corey Davis than Will Fuller.
That's and full disclosure, as would I.
Okay, all right. Now we do have one piece of news. I guess we haven't discussed it yet. Did we talk about this, Brooks? The Julian Edelman news?
We didn't bring up the fact that it was confirmed now. His appeal has finished the process, and he will serve the full.
It was denied.
Yes, it was denied. He will serve the full 4-game suspension. Technically, he could still take it to like outer court, the way Brady did, but I don't think he's going to.
Well, no, and this is how it ends up 99.9% of the time in the NFL. These suspensions are upheld.
Yeah, when it is any kind of PED-related suspension, I mean, you could pretty much just ignore the appeal process. This was one of the best cases. This was one of the best cases to go through. Still didn't get overturned or reduced. So yeah, if a PED suspension comes, just take it.
Let me ask you this: now that it's confirmed, and I know we've adjusted our rankings, and we had done that prior, we had even re-filmed the Julian Edelman video for the Ultimate Draft Kit. But does your opinion or anything? How do you feel about Gronk because of the 4 games with no Edelman? Look, people, whenever this conversation begins with, "Boy, Jordan Matthews is going to have a chance to make his mark," like that should tell you something about the opportunity Gronk's going to have during the first 4 games, should it not?
Well, yeah, but I don't think Gronk's role is going to change much.
But don't you have to lean on him even more in those 4 games?
Yes, the third down option becomes all the more Gronk and less Edelman. But it's not like Gronk changes position is my point. Gronk was the number 1 tight end. Gronk is a value, in that second round. He doesn't actually change. The guy that changes for me the most, well, I guess
he also had no Edelman all of last year.
The most might be someone like Jordan Matthews who goes from nothing to something. But I have really been changing on Chris Hogan. This is a guy, if we had a quick question today that who have you been rising the most on, it's Hogan. I've gone
We need to do that one, Brooks. We need to do like our biggest ranking adjustment quick question here in the next few weeks.
Yeah. I went back after this confirmation of the suspension, looked at the Patriots, looked in depth at last year's stats and kind of some splits, and I realized that I was too low on Hogan. I think Hogan has the ability and potential to be up near a wide receiver 1. That's not what I'm projecting by any means, but I mean, he's Tom Brady. He's now Tom Brady's primary wide receiver weapon. That's what I believe, and that's a great role to play.
Well, yeah, I agree with that. And you had made some adjustments, I believe, yesterday, right, to the Patriots?
Yeah, mostly to
just
Chris
to Hogan. Okay. I was doing a little browsing on the on Fantasy Pros.
Trying to see if a really good article's out yet.
Yeah, to see. You might want to keep your eyes open for that.
Yeah.
Do we hold on to that news?
Yeah, we'll hold on to that at least till Mike's back because it involves him too. But future shout out to
yourself.
I guess I was just gonna say to the accuracy rankings. There's good news coming.
All right, we're gonna jump into our Foot Clan mailbag. There are a ton of great off-season questions that we're going to answer on the show today, and we like to choose the ones that we think will be really relevant to a lot of you out there, so it's going to be a great time. Before we do that, I do want to thank today's sponsor. You've heard me talk about them before. It's Casper. Look, podcast listeners are invited, our listeners are invited to take advantage of a very special limited-time 4th of July offer from Casper and Casper Mattresses. They're the place to shop for 4th of July mattresses. And look, we know 4th of July was a couple days ago, but your savings goes through July 9th. Okay, they have 3 different lines of mattresses, the original Casper, the Wave, and the Streamlined Essential. They're all designed to help you sleep both cool at night and comfortably. And you can be sure because you get a 100-night risk-free trial. Returns are hassle-free. And look, the whole experience is great. I have a Casper mattress. The unboxing, the way you sleep, the comfort, the feel, it's all great with a Casper mattress. So for a limited time, visit Casper.com/savings. So listen to that. Casper.com/savings. You can get up to $225 off your order. Limited time only. So if you've been on the fence, want to jump in on the Casper, it ends July 9th. Casper.com/savings to save up to $225 off your order. Again, ends July 9th.
Man, if you're saving $225 on anything,
I know where you can spend it.
You can go over to Pristine Auction, get some good stuff. Big thanks to Pristine Auction, longtime sponsor of the show.
Talk about our hallway, Jason.
Our hallway is lined with jerseys.
Oh, the new edition.
The new edition. We've got this
Johnson,
beautiful David Johnson signed, framed, matted jersey.
Oh.
We've got a Hopkins on the wall
Johnson.
right now. We've got Odell Beckham. We've got all these jerseys. People come into our studio and they think they either had to be donated or we've spent,
or we're broke.
Yeah, or we're broke. But the reality is you can get signed authentic signatures of these superstars on auction at Pristine Auction for prices that you just can't believe.
And hundreds of them per day.
Hundreds of different ones. And not just jerseys, footballs, helmets, awesome stuff. But here's some stuff. Juju Smith-Schuster signed jersey, $70 yesterday. Randall Cobb, $68. A Tyreek Hill signed Chiefs jersey yesterday for $50. Because it's an auction, you can steal these things. So go to pristineauction.com, Pristine auction.com, make a free account, tell them the footballer sent you.
All right, who's doing the mailbag drop today? Didn't we say that? Didn't we promise the people that you were doing it this Saturday?
I'm just gonna go for it.
All right, now I'm gonna give you a little warning here. I know you're warming up there. You're doing the Rocky thing. I think you just grabbed your voice box and stretched it a little bit. Don't lose confidence. Just go for it.
I'm going for it.
All right, here we go.
I'm going.
Mailbag.
Mailbag. Terrible. Awful. I hated it.
That was so bad.
Yeah, it was not good.
You never dropped into falsetto.
I didn't do any of that right.
I'd rather have the sultry one
that was,
that you do.
Well, I can't believe you're the most shameless, self-confident, talented man I know, Jason.
Oh, that's too kind. But I still know when I
on the
suck
mailbag,
at things.
That was basically like you were screaming at an employee.
Mm-hmm.
That was like, you might as well just said, Brooks!
Foot Clan, I apologize for you having to listen to that. Let's get some good fantasy
they're
football
happy. They're happy with
answers.
it. All right, if you have a question, you can go to the website, thefantasyfootballers.com, click the Submit a Question button. 302-464-TFFB is the voicemail hotline. If you didn't hear it, hit the 15-second back, or I can just repeat it. 302-464-TFFB. Voicemail question to kick it off.
Hey guys, this is Tyler McPherson out of San Antonio, Texas. Love this show. Just had a quick question about 6 points per passing touchdown leagues. I'm just having trouble valuing quarterbacks correctly, if you will, in those type of leagues. I'm in a PPR league. Love the show, guys. Thanks.
Great question, Tyler. Appreciate it. And it's one we'll get pretty often.
Over and over.
Yeah, we'll get it often because I think what happens is you have kind of like the defaults that are out there in ESPN and Yahoo where people are used to seeing 4 points per passing touchdown, and then they join a league, and then they see the settings, and they say, oh, what's different about this league? And they see 6 points per touchdown for quarterback, and then they say, what do I do?
Yeah, and they hear us talk about late-round quarterback. They hear us talk about don't draft quarterback early, and then they go, but I'm in a 6 point per quarterback league. And it not only does it change virtually nothing in that strategy, there is great research done by J.J. Zachariason, great follow on Twitter. Check him out at the Late Round QB, where he showed the we talk about streaming, right, where you play quarterbacks off of the waiver wire. Every week you're picking up a different quarterback, playing a different quarterback because you only need one, and there's plenty on the waivers. In 6 point leagues, there are actually more options from the waiver wires, more quarterbacks that finish as a quarterback 1 than in 4-point leagues. So it actually is almost more beneficial for the late round strategy because you can have waiver wire guys perform better because you're predicting the touchdown opportunity matchups, and then you get more points for them. So
yeah, the two things to remember is, one, it's a rising water level for all quarterbacks. If they score more points per touchdown, they all score more points per touchdown.
Right.
The only thing it will do is it will change which quarterbacks might be more valuable slightly.
Right, or vice versa. So Deshaun Watson.
Sure. A running quarterback that gets rewarded 6 points per rushing touchdown.
Right. He's my number 3 quarterback in 4-point leagues, but he drops to like 5 or 6.
Dak Prescott goes up in 4-point leagues.
Right.
He always seems to run in 5 or 6 touchdowns per season.
Exactly.
But it doesn't change the position, and that's the thing to remember. All right, this question comes in off of Twitter from Sea-Dog.
Sea-Dog.
What are your thoughts on Calvin Ridley? I drafted him for 2 reasons. Number 1, Julio Jones has been injury-prone. And number 2, if he is injured, Ridley will be the deep threat with Gabriel gone. I actually have an answer to this. You mind if I jump in?
I hope you do. That's your job.
Well, certainly. Yeah, we would have – I just mean I've been thinking about this.
Sure. I want to hear it.
One of the quick questions Brooks had suggested for a show recently was if you could take a player out of their situation and put them in a better one for fantasy, who would you do? And I actually thought about Calvin Ridley because I love Calvin Ridley. I think he's a great player.
I do too.
I think he played phenomenally with subpar quarterback play in college, and I think he went to a good situation eventually. But right now, I actually don't like him that much. Julio Jones is the number 1 guy. Mohamed Sanu, while not flashy, is actually the player that would benefit the most if Julio Jones went down, in my opinion.
I agree.
I think Julio, if he went down to injury, Sanu is the player that you want to grab and start. Now, Ridley will contribute. He'll have his games. But you're kind of looking at it like, I don't know, Sterling Shepard was a couple years ago where he's 3rd in the pecking order, and it's kind of, not only that, he's even 3rd in the pecking order with Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman and Austin Hooper involved.
Yeah, there are a lot of mouths to feed, and I do agree Calvin Ridley's a good player, but this isn't going to be the year that he's not breaking into the NFL with a huge fantasy year. I do think he'll
help the team.
He'll help the team. He'll be a great player. I mean, I was so impressed by that pick. He's just perfect for their scheme. He's going to destroy opponents' zones.
I just want to stress this, too. If the Falcons could focus on drafting some sort of wide receiver whose last name is Hobbs, this could be really good for the next 10 to 12 years.
No, don't. Come on.
I'm just saying.
I'm sure you got some people out there that loved that.
Yeah.
I was never a Calvin and Hobbs
Neither
guy.
was I.
Really? You seem like a Calvin and Hobbs guy.
I do?
Oh, yeah.
Why do I seem like a Calvin and Hobbs?
Because weren't those in newspapers a long time ago?
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Well, all comics were in newspapers.
Yep, well, then I assume
so
you
you're
like all
not
the old-timey comics.
You're not a comic. You didn't have the Sunday morning pull out the comic section and read them when you were a kid?
Sure, I did, but then, then
you grew up. Yeah, I know. We're all grown up now, Jason. You can still enjoy something.
Yeah, I don't live in the old-timey days like you.
Now, my son is sitting in on today's show.
Oh, shout out to Caleb.
So he's waving over there. He's 9 years old, and he is one of the biggest Calvin and Hobbes fans I know. He owns tons of Calvin and Hobbes books. My wife passed them down. That love.
That's actually part of the reason why I thought you loved it, because I've seen Calvin and Hobbes books.
Yeah.
So it was actually a shout out to Caleb,
sure.
Not to you.
All right, this question comes in from Sean off of Facebook. Half-point PPR league. He says, I can keep Turok, the dinosaur hunter Cohen, for a 7th rounder, or T-Rex Burkhead for a 9th. What's the better value, the hunter or the dino?
Oh, man. Put those two in a room. There's going to be a fight.
So, Turok, the dinosaur hunter, or T-Rex Burkhead?
This is not close to me.
Nice job, Brooks, selecting this question. This is important for a Saturday episode.
This is not close to me. If they were the exact same value, I would rather have T-Rex Burkhead over Turok the Dinosaur Hunter Cohen.
I would too. From a consistency standpoint, I think Rex is going to be better.
Right. From an offensive standpoint, he's done it before. Cohen has shown flashes, but he hasn't actually been a consistent fantasy relevant player. We're projecting good things, but I would like him. And the fact that you get him 2 rounds later, it's a home run for T-Rex.
I agree with you. All right, this question comes in off of Instagram from Stony Duetto. By the way, Instagram.com/fantasyfootballers if you want to follow us there. Good question. I'm curious why Andy has ranked Rashad Penny lower in the last update of the Ultimate Draft Kit. And then asks, is the cause the retirement of Cam Chancellor?
Oh, I thought he was asking if your lowering of him caused
is that
Cam
what caused
Chancellor
the actual
to retire, which is probably
probably. Good question. And actually, this will let me address the overarching question of, like, we adjust our rankings every week. Sometimes there is a very blatant cause, right? A suspension or an injury. And sometimes we're massaging and distributing the carries, the targets, the receptions, and massaging that based on how we feel about the offense and the reports out of camp and all those things, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes you take a look again, a second time at the same stats, and you just disagree with what your original opinion was, and that's not a bad thing. That's how we try to get more and more and more accurate rankings the closer to the season, and has proven successful.
In this case with Rashad Penny, I can answer. I looked at my rankings. I saw Rashad Penny was at like 16. I felt like he was a little high. I've been the most vocal on this show of saying that I don't believe that the Seahawks are going to give everything to Rashad Penny, and I moved Chris Carson up as a relative move. I felt like the gap between Penny in my rankings and Carson was too big.
So as the resident Rashad Penny truther, I must answer this question because he was almost my player I was ashamed to love, because the reports out of camp are every beat writer is basically saying that the person who really showed the best at camp, and they're saying good things about Rashad Penny, he's improving his pass blocking, all those things, but they said as of today the starter would be Chris Carson. And I went, what? This is insanity.
Yes.
So I've
been saying it.
I am worried about Rashad Penny. I think his talent will win out. He is
but
vastly superior to Chris
Did you see his
Carson.
Madden rating? He was disrespected. He thinks he was disrespected in Madden.
Good. Get that chip on the shoulder. No, I love Rashad Penny, but you have to pay attention to those things. You can't get overwhelmed with your own love for a player and ignore just how teams are using him.
Yeah. So that was the reason. I just felt a little less confident in Penny than I had before. Instagram question, Jason. This one's from Michael J. Grimm Jr.
Sounds
heck of a name.
Sounds pretty dark.
Who do you like better in the late rounds? Risky rookies or handcuffs?
This is an absolutely super easy home run answer. It is 100% risky rookies. Rookies at the end of the draft are usually an unbelievably great value because they're either going to pop or you can drop them early. I mean, I think about how late DJ Moore is going, and he could be the #1 for his team. And some of the other, Kerryon Johnson's going a little bit later. He's unfortunately climbing up more and more. But those guys have a chance to break out. The handcuff, you will have to hold, assuming that your guy doesn't get injured week 1. And then what happens is week 1, some guys get injured. You're going to want the other guys that are on waivers, and now you're going to have to drop your handcuff who had no chance week 1 to be anything relevant. So I would definitely take risky rookies over handcuffs at the draft.
And by risky rookies, I would lean towards those you'll get an opportunity to evaluate within the first 3 or 4 weeks.
Right.
Hopefully, if you have a choice. All right, Wayne in New Orleans. Thinking of switching my league scoring from 1 point per reception to half point per reception and half point per first down. Would this cause any major swings in balance and rankings?
I like this. I like
You like the first down reward.
I do like that. It's a little bit more difficult to get the data on it. You can.
Do you know what team had the most first downs last year?
I do not know.
That would be the New England Patriots with
that would have been the guess.
24.8 first downs per game, which was actually kind of much higher than the other teams. The second is Pittsburgh, but do you know who third was? This will be surprising to you. Tampa Bay. Third in the NFL.
That is surprising.
Chicago dead last, Cincinnati near the bottom, Indianapolis near the bottom.
It won't cause any major swings in balance or rankings, but I do think one thing that it will do to the benefit of the league is it will even out your flex players. In full point PPR, I would definitely take a full PPR over standard, but the reason I love half point is because your flex players are much more even when it comes to wide receivers and running backs. In full point PPR, once you get past the elites and you get to kind of the players in the 20s and 30s and 40s in their respective positions, wide receivers just score more. And so in this one, it balances the playing field, allows more players to be able to be grabbed for your flex position.
All right, from Instagram, Dan Rolando has a question. He says, how likely do you think it is that Sony Michel will be the next Gilly in the 5th round, hashtag been burned before?
I think it is less likely. I would say it was, I would say 20%.
I would put it at 10%.
Yeah, I mean, my worry with Sony Michel, they invested heavily in him with that first round, far more than they invested in Gilly. Gilly was never a super expensive contract.
Far different players. Gilly was not brought in to be pass catching and flexible.
Yeah, I mean, they brought Gilly in from being a backup to Shady in Buffalo, and they saw something better than being a backup in him, but he wasn't a first-round talent. You have a much more talented player in Sony Michel. My only worry, and the reason I put 20% as the number of him just basically going the way of Mike Gillislee last year, which is to say riding the bench, is fumbles. Because
that's a very, very important point.
Sony Michel had a major fumbling problem in college, and this is not the team, not the coaching staff that deals well with fumbles.
It's funny because you
ride the bench.
You would think of that, because that reality is 100% there. He was bad. I think he was near the top 5 in the per carry fumble type of situation in college. But why draft him?
I know.
Why draft a guy like that if that's such a big problem to you in the first round?
Coaches always think they can coach it out of guys,
and they can. I mean, that's the one thing. Yeah, I mean, that is the one thing that can be coached out of players a lot of the time is fumbles. All right. Polly's Sleepers in Indiana has a question. He says, bonjour from Indiana, Jason.
What? You can't bonjour from Indiana? That's in the U.S. But
are you sure about that?
No,
it is.
Geography is not my strong suit.
You guys are great, and it inspires me to do my own podcast, and I have a YouTube channel as well.
Sweet.
How do you guys stay competitive in your personal leagues, considering you're basically playing poker with your cards face up?
Yeah.
I am working on my rankings right now, and everyone I play will have access.
Yep. Oh,
Also, I love sharks, so I love the
Megalodon
episode.
Megalodon coming in a couple months.
Yeah.
Several months, really.
It's Megala great.
Yeah. That's if you look back at the original email correspondence between Mike and Andy when they were considering putting the show
3-4 years
together.
ago.
And we looked recently, this was like a couple months ago, that we dug up these old emails, and their biggest worry was what you're bringing up. They're like, oh, no, people are going to know our rankings. And then, look, you have to turn the tables and say, I'm doing this more for other people than I am for myself, and care more about your ranking accuracy and your projections and your stats and all of those things than you do about winning your own league. But then you get the real feather in the cap when you say, I've put all my imagine if you're playing poker, cards face up, and you win. I mean, that's like an extra.
That's a very good moment.
Yeah, and so we've still won some championships since we've had all of our cards face up, and it feels good.
It's not generally a good principle for anybody. Let's say I knew my one opponent in my league's strategy, and then I spend all of my time obsessing about beating that one person. that's not necessarily going to be the best way forward for you. That's kind of like, you know, the cornerback who gets so obsessed with fighting after the play, you know, he loses the team concept, and you want to draft your team.
Yeah.
So, all right. John in Plymouth, Minnesota. Virgil Green don't get no love, he says. Are you guys ranking Virgil Green below Adam Shaheen, Jermaine Gresham, and Dallas Goedert? Explain yourselves. Well, here's the thing.
Antonio Gates?
Yeah, I have him ranked that way right now. If Antonio Gates is not signed, which, by the way, recent news says that Antonio Gates wants to play for no one but the Chargers, and so it's probably going to happen, and if it doesn't, he'll retire. If he doesn't, then Virgil Green, if he's alone there, will get an adjustment.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what it is. I still expect Antonio Gates to be
the problem is I don't want to rank him that way now and then have you go draft him in a bunch of best ball leagues, and then he's not relevant.
Right.
Right?
Yep. No, that's
Facebook
exactly right.
question from Connor. What if you hate everyone in your league and you're trying to coordinate a sort of Hunger Games style draft and you want to watch them fight each other to the death? Any tips for that? Well, that'd be a one-man league by the end, right? I mean,
right.
You'll win.
Yeah, that's the hashtag FootClan's title. Yeah, you know, my biggest tip is I would definitely travel to an island. I mean, that's got to be the first start of this. You can't do this on mainland.
You can't willy-nilly. This isn't the Purge. You can't.
Not that. Yeah, otherwise they're going to be able to escape. You got to go to an island.
In other words, it's a hassle.
Yeah, it's a big deal. Here's another option. You go to footclanleagues.com, find a new league if you don't like your league mates, and you can just take yourself gently out of the situation.
Yeah. All right. From Instagram, Colin says, would you rather start off your draft with Zeke and Devontae Adams or Melvin Gordon and Julio? Well, this one is very easy for me because I have Melvin Gordon ranked ahead of Zeke, and I have Julio ranked ahead of Adams. Therefore, I will go Gordon and Julio.
Yeah, it's not as easy for me. I have Zeke ahead of Gordon, but Julio ahead of Adams. I expect really good things from Julio this year. Julio, I think, is actually one of the better values in that first, second round. So I'm going to take the Melvin Gordon Julio side as well.
Oh, we're best friends.
Yeah.
All right, you ready for some best ball, Jason? Let's give them some tips.
Best Ball Bonanza, brought to you by PlayDraft.
Yeehaw!
If you want to play best ball, please play at draft.com/ballers. I'm in the middle of a best ball draft right this moment. I just drafted Martavis Bryant very, very late. I think the fear of the suspension is making him undrafted, but if he, you can get him with your last pick basically, and then if he is not suspended, yeah,
you've got a great pick there.
So, Jason, you had a live best ball draft yesterday. You did it on YouTube.
Yes.
You did it quite successfully.
Thank you.
Well done.
What was
the big tip that you wanted to bring up?
Yeah, I wanted to bring up a big tip, lesson learned from specifically from that draft. But before I do that, we had a lot of mailbag questions. Brooks said, "Hey, when we start the Best Ball Bonanza, can you please give a description of what best ball is, because not everybody knows." And there's been a lot of questions of what is best ball. First of all, it's a super duper fun game. It's basically what I used to always dream of when I would put all my time into the draft and then kind of depart once the season came long ago. I say you don't win the championship at your draft, but you do in best ball because it's the only thing you do. You draft the best team, a really deep team, 18 players. You draft a huge roster, and every single week, the whole year, your best starting lineup is automatically entered in. The worst sits on the bench. It's basically a format of one starting quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, a flex, and a tight end, and then you've got 18 total players. And it's fun. You could track it the whole year long. You can win some money. And also, hey, we should mention, if you are playing with the link draft.com/ballers, you are automatically entered to the flyaway contest to come see us in New York live.
Yeah.
Paid travel.
July 27th. It's coming up.
Paid travel, paid tickets, a free trip. So
it's great.
But here's one tip. We're going to give a tip every week on how to succeed at best ball. Next week, we'll probably cover roster construction. I think it's the most important tip. But based on the live draft yesterday, mistakes were made.
By someone I know?
By me.
Okay. Not surprised.
It's ironic because I was giving this tip and I was drafting based on this tip. The tip is basically about the importance of bye weeks. We say on the show all the time, stop worrying about bye weeks. They don't matter. By the time the bye weeks come around, you'll have a different roster.
They don't matter much.
They don't matter much.
Yeah.
But in best ball, they do matter. You don't get to make roster transactions. You don't get
especially
to
for
pick people up off
positions
of
you don't
waivers.
draft a lot of.
Right. So when you've got quarterbacks or tight ends, you want to make sure, if you're wanting only to draft maybe 2 of those, that when you go to draft your second guy, look at what the bye week is. You don't want 2 guys with a week 7 bye because then you're forced to draft a third party. But here is my actual tip on how to manage, when do bye weeks matter when you're playing best ball on draft. Don't worry about bye weeks for your first 6 or maybe 7 picks. Don't worry about it. Take the best player. If they have the same bye weeks, whatever. Take the best players, those first 6 or 7 picks. Don't worry. But at that point, once you get to that 7th, 8th round, that's when you want to then look at your players and say, oh, it turns out that 2 of my 4 running backs have a week 9 bye. I need to look at that, and especially late in the draft when I am making my last 3 picks. Every single time when I decide which position to draft, I look at bye weeks. I pause when I'm on the clock and I say, okay, I usually want more wide receivers than running backs, but
I had a draft last year, cautionary tale, where I drafted 2 big time tight ends and didn't pay attention.
Yeah,
and they were on the same bye.
Yeah, exactly.
So I had no tight end for a week.
You didn't score any points that week, and in here it doesn't matter if you finish 4th. You have to, win the league, and so you've got to maximize those. Let me pull up what happened yesterday. So this is what happened. I'm giving this tip and talking late in the draft about how, it matters your bye weeks, and it turned out I looked at my running backs, and wouldn't you know it, I had, I think, 4 week 11 bye weeks on that roster at running back. So I knew I had to take a running back. So I'm talking through, and this was a fast draft, 30 seconds per pick. And so I'm talking to everybody, and I'm saying, hey, I'm clearly going to take a running back. And the options there were I could get a good handcuff, like a John Kelly, a Chase Edmonds. But because of my bye week problem, I need to have someone that I know is playing. And I don't know that those guys will actually be in the lineup come week 11. So I wanted Mr. Tried and True Infinity Stone himself, Frank Gore. He'll probably be healthy and active and still playing. So I draft him, and then I make a joke afterwards that I didn't look at his bye, and wouldn't you know it?
Whoops.
Week 11 bye. So congratulations to everyone else playing against me in that league. Another tip.
Yeah.
I'll double up. 2 tips.
Double up.
I don't recommend if you're putting money on the line, I don't recommend that you live stream and answer fantasy football questions and draft at the same time. It's hard to put out a good roster.
That reminds me of when you were the auctioneer and you were doing an auction draft, and you were being the auctioneer and trying to run your own team.
Never be the live auctioneer at your own auction.
Yeah, this wasn't a web-based one. This was like a live auction.
Everything on paper, and I'm having to track everything, every player, every bid, and then I've also got a team.
All right, that is it for Best Ball Bonanza. Another reminder, draft.com/ballers if you want to play this off-season. Great place to play. So that is it for today's episode. Mike will be back next week. Thanks to Jay Grizz. Very quiet today, but that's fine.
You did your best, bud.
You did your best. And be sure to check us out again on YouTube, Twitter, and I'm excited. Next week we'll be in Dallas, ballerslive.com if you want tickets. We'll have 3 more shows next week.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm just inching closer to my repeat in our Dynasty League, Jason.
Never going to happen.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.